welcome to Don't Be a Dick, the podcast. I'm Lindsay Mattes, author, speaker, president and founder of Kinder HR, and Mama Bear to all.
And I'm her lovely daughter, Ivie. I'm a queer activist, leftist, and witchy weirdo. Together, we are on a journey to navigate this messy world with kindness, empathy, and laughter.
So buckle up. We're going to dig into issues that we're facing as humans in our world today. What's our topic, Ive?
Today's our very first episode.
Yay!
Yay! And we are going to be discussing who we are.
Why we're here.
Why do you want to listen to us?
Aside from the fact we're funny and intelligent.
And beautiful and smart and clever and witty and...
What she said. All right.
I feel like 3 of those words were actually just the same. Like, just synonyms.
Just synonyms of each other. Most words are synonyms, right? How many authentic words are there?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's one of the things we're going to talk about. But not today.
That can be a Patreon.
So I wanted to start by telling you a little bit about Ivie. Ivie is my firstborn, and she came along at a time that was quite tumultuous. Is that a good word? And she changed my life. She is my unicorn baby and just someone who has been with me, helping me process life and kind of growing up with me. And I love listening to her. She has the most incredible deep thoughts. And honestly, you guys, she has since kindergarten. She came home from kindergarten one day and said, "Hey, Mom, some boy said only boys can be doctors." And I'm like, "Oh, what did you say?" She's like, "I told him that's a gender stereotype." There you go.
And where did I learn that word? Yeah, so I have been incredibly lucky in my life to have been raised with a mom who was a loud and proud feminist, who was a black sheep, who was a badass, who refused to, like, sit with convention, you know? And I feel like so much of who I am came from my mother. And when I was very young, you decided to go back to college or go to college and major in women's studies. And
boy, was your grandfather pissed.
I mean, it's surprising considering that he was very honest about who his daughter was. He knew you were a feminist before you did.
You're right. He called me a feminist, and I had to tell him what that word meant. So, way to go, Dad.
But, yeah, you went to college and majored in women's studies, and I was very lucky that at 4, 5, 6 years old, my mother would come home from these classes where she would be learning about philosophy and racial politics and gender politics, and she'd sit me down as a little kid, and she wouldn't treat me like a dumb little kid, you know? She would be like, "This is what I learned in school today, and isn't that interesting, or isn't that awful, or isn't that complicated?" I heard the trolley problem for the first time probably at 5 years old from you, because Mom went to class and they talked about the trolley problem, and she was so fascinated by this complicated issue where there's not a right or wrong answer, and she came home and the first thing she did is she told her 6-year-old about it. I'm not quite clear on the age, to be fair. I was very young.
Well, I'm not sure on the trolley story.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Tell me. Remind me.
The trolley problem you don't remember?
No. Please.
It's integral to my young
Which is why you can remember it.
So the trolley problem is a very famous ethical conundrum wherein you picture yourself as the driver of a trolley. Yeah, I can see you.
It's coming back to me.
And you, as the trolley driver, see that on the track ahead of you is 5 people. And you are going to hit them. You are moving through, your brakes are broken, you can't stop. But you can switch tracks. There is another track you can switch to, but that track has 1 person on it. And so you are put in this ethical dilemma in the moment of, there is no good option to this. Do I plow forward and kill these 5 people, or do I sacrifice 1 person to save them? And there's all sorts of reiterations of this, where you imagine, what if I knew the 1 person, right? Or what if I, what if one of them is a child, or one of them is an elder? Like, how does that adjust your processing of ethical thinking? But ultimately, the conclusion of the trolley problem is that life is hard, and there isn't always a good answer, and there isn't always a straightforward path. And sometimes you're going to do something that causes harm, inevitably. And that is something that I remember from a very, very young age.
You know what? I love that you remember that, because as you're telling that story, that is now sort of what I've spent my career trying to do. Mm-hmm. Trying to find the ethical opportunity. And sometimes it's not going to be a good thing. But there can be opportunities to find connection. Is this making sense? I'm not sure. Okay.
There are opportunities to do good, even in a world where we're constantly doing harm. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. So, but that, especially in the world of HR, there's a lot of hard decisions. Mm-hmm. Like when I have had to terminate employees, that's a hard decision.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want to. But what is the best thing for the team versus what is the best thing for the individual? And I guess that's what I've been doing. Luckily, terminating people is not the only thing I had to do, but I swear to God, they called me the queen of termination because I did it so many times. And all I can hope is that I wasn't a dick about it.
Yeah. Well, and I think we should talk about that too, because you and I have talked about how that is always your least favorite, the hardest part of your job is letting people go, but you always decided to be the one to do it. Do you want to talk about why that is?
Because I was afraid that other people would not be as kind or as respectful. That they did not have the experience to do it. And oftentimes their reaction and there is, you're fired, you suck, go away. Or something like that. And even if it's a termination for cause, that's a person sitting across the table from you. They have a life that you just majorly interrupted. Whether it was on their own volition or not, that's still happening to them. So I guess I always figured that if anyone could do it kindly, it was me.
I love that. And I feel like that brings us to, what is this podcast about? Why are we doing this? What are we talking about?
I guess it's that, right? Navigating in a world where we're forever faced with choices.
Yeah.
Some have an obvious good outcome, and others are going to suck.
Yeah. And how do we move forward as ethically and as lovingly and as kindly as possible in a world that isn't always those things?
Right? And what I really am going to appreciate about your perspective is your political activism has put you in a place where your focus is on inclusion of excluded groups. And it's so important, I think, to be able to understand the perspective of someone who's navigating life differently in real time, a real voice, a human on the other end of the microphone.
Absolutely. And for context, I want to put out there, both of us are white women, cisgendered mostly, kind of figuring that out, but that's not important.
Yes, it is. You're right. But we have to acknowledge our privilege. Thank you for reminding me of that.
I personally am identify as queer, bisexual, pansexual, and have spent a lot of my adult life working in queer communities, and trying to build community, and also trying to do activism for other groups as well, that I not necessarily am a part of, trying to be an ally. And we will hopefully get people on the podcast to talk to us about all sorts of issues and experiences that we don't relate to.
That we are, in fact, not part of. And you know what? And there you go. That's exactly it. I am learning to be an ally. You know, I grew up in the LDS church. I am not a member anymore, but dude, I'm still a Mormon. I mean that. I culturally speaking, my mindset is built on what I learned as a child. And there were a lot of beautiful, wonderful things. And frankly, I am proud of my pioneer heritage. But I am still a white woman. Mm-hmm. And I still have a lot of privilege. And learning to be an ally with someone who is open enough to share their experience makes it a little easier. But not always. We will have our disagreements, by the way. And
oh, yeah. We have, we talked about this. We have, I think, the same values, right? We have baseline values that are the same. That I think my values grew up from your values, mm-hmm. you know? But we have very different perspectives.
Yes.
And very different day-to-day experiences. And are in, like, different places on the political spectrum.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Fundamentally, we both have a deep belief that human life is valuable and worth protecting, and that we need to be advocates and allies to anyone who is not being served by our current system, right?
Right.
So what are some topics we're going to talk about in this show?
That's a great question. We're going to talk about politics, right? Our understanding. We're not, like Ivie said, we're not political experts.
Yeah.
I will acknowledge I am an HR expert. That is my expertise. And so my perspective is going to come from that HR lens, of living and working in corporate America. And I am not a complete fan. There's a lot of flaws, but there is some beauty in corporate America. And I believe that is the workplace where we can start finding our commonalities. And that's the place to start to learn how to be an ally.
Fair. And I am not an expert in anything.
Untrue.
However, I have spent most of my life studying sociology and political theory. But to be clear, outside of a classroom mostly, I have always been fascinated reading books about patriarchy and white supremacy and these systems that we are pushed up against all the time, and have spent a lot of time researching and learning about marginalized people and groups, and trying to learn how to be a good ally and how to be a good person in the world. But full disclosure, I have an associate's degree.
But I was going to point out Ivie is, just like she said, she's extremely educated outside of this classroom. And to many, many of us out there, that's true. We learn a lot. College is not the only way to learn. And in fact, in college, you have to do the exact same thing. You got to do your reading and you got to do your research. You just didn't have to take a bunch of fucking tests.
Yeah, I just didn't have the money.
We'll probably have a conversation about that as well. I think that maybe had something to do with the fact that Mom had $100,000 worth of student loan money.
Yeah.
So I was like, I am not going that way. I'm like, no, we'll figure it out.
And to be fair, I mean, I loved college. The short period that I was there, I loved it. I found it very fulfilling. But I also, we should have a whole conversation about college. But I just want full disclosure, for the audience to know, like, where I'm coming from, what I feel like my knowledge is in. But when I went to college, I got an English degree at a technical school. So I think that tells you that is maybe not the sole point of my experience and knowledge, and that it comes from other places. Does that seem fair?
That seems fair. I'm with you on that. And there you go, folks, another topic that we'll be discussing in a future podcast.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about current events. We'll talk about movies and books that we read and like. We're going to hopefully have some fun episodes.
Oh my gosh. So much fun.
And we also are going to talk about a lot about theory,
Yes.
About, like, what does it mean to be nice versus kind? What does it mean to be ethical? Is there any ethical consumption under capitalism? These kinds of conversations are what we're hoping to bring up.
A little.
I
just have to throw that in.
I already got an answer.
I'm in HR. I always have an answer about capitalism. I was in the middle of it.
Yeah. So join us for our next episode where we dive into the name of our podcast, Don't Be a Dick, why we decided on that name, where it comes from, and what it means to us.
Until next time, remember to practice kindness. And well, if you can't be kind,
at least don't be a dick.